What's happening, guys? It's been a while, been pretty busy, but finally back in the trailer. I got a few things in that I ordered for the bike. I got an order from Motorsport, and then I went on eBay and picked up a few things. Let me grab it and let me show you what I got. Alright, so first thing I got here is a set of radiator hoses. I went with GPI. I used them for replacement radiators in the past, and I think I have a set of their hoses on one of my bikes. Never had any problems with them before, but I went with the silicone ones just because they're so much easier to get on and off the bike. They resist heat a lot better as well, and they look cool. They're red, so that's a plus. That's like at least a horse, maybe even a horse and a half. Alright, next here, this is a used part that I got off of eBay, and we have a chain slider. This bolts on the bottom of the swing arm. What's on there now is actually a really nice one, but the problem with it is it's TM Designs, which they're nice, but they're so thick that when you start putting a Supermoto wheel into that swing arm, it'll get in your way. You know, it takes up a lot of room. This is very streamlined. The OEM one is streamlined. It's aluminum, so I mean it's nice and light too. This one that I bought didn't have hardly any wear on the slider, so that works out good. And then also I'll show you a trick that I do with reversing these bolts and countersinking them, so that gives you just a little bit more clearance when you're trying to put your wheel in the swing arm. Alright, next on the list of parts that I picked up, this was also an eBay buy. I found a store on eBay that sells nickel-plated bolts. So, as I discussed when I was tearing the motor apart, the hardware that came on the bike, you know, a lot of it was pretty crusty looking. So, rather than spending, I know how much time it takes to clean it up, I found the store and ended up picking up a whole set. Show you, it's pretty cool. All organized already for you from the seller. You know, it's all labeled, which is very nice. Makes things a lot easier and quicker when you go home to assemble. But, you know, it's all really nice looking hardware, nickel plated stuff, like I said. This will dress everything up real nice. But I do like the fact that it's all labeled. Now, obviously I can figure it all out, but this is going to save a lot of time having it labeled like that. So next on the parts list that I ended up ordering, this is all stuff from motorsport.com. I ended up going with black front number plate and a black front fender. This is also 2017 stuff, so it's going to update the front end, make it look you know, more like a modern bike. Which I did that to my 07, and it made a huge difference. So we do the same thing to this one, but we're going to go with black. I've already got a pretty good theme going in my head, and like I said, I've been talking to some guys in the graphics industry and starting to ponder some ideas, but that'll be part of that kit. Also from Motorsport, got a skid plate. This is for a CRF450X. I went with the X model because the X model doesn't have any vent holes or anything that you got to block up and cover for our series where we need a belly pan, so this will act as a container. So if you get the 450X one, you don't have to worry about trying to make it, you know, waterproof and seal it up. So got one of those. Went with no toil. I've had good luck with the no toils. No issues. No toil and twin air, pretty close in performance. And these are a little bit cheaper. So I usually pick up, you know, like a half a dozen of them at a time. But I got one for this one. I got me some more reflective gold heat barrier. Probably do some on the tank and the air box, and we'll get that squared away. I think all I got left is just this little tiny sheet, so I ended up picking up some more of that because we're going to need that. Got some grips for the bike, some new grips. These are ODI's lock-on grips. I used these on that Pay It Forward project that I did last summer for that kid with a 250. First time using them, and they were actually pretty impressive. I liked them, so I went with them on this project. We'll try them on this one as well. Got a new bar pad, because you need to freshen up the bar pad, obviously. Got an hour meter. This is going to have a brand new engine on it, so you would want an hour meter to be able to track your maintenance. This is a wireless one. I've used the wireless one from Pro Taper, and I've used the wireless one from Get. Both work great. Both are resettable. Both keep track of total time and service time. So this works really well. So I'm going to put this on there. Got ourselves an oil filter. We got some OEM stuff in here. Got these are the seals that go on the valve cover. Put new seals on there. That wrench rabbit kit didn't come with it. It's not something that's commonly needing to be replaced, but I figured we'd put some new ones on there. They're cheap enough. Let's see. New circlip for the oil pump. Once you take them on and off, especially like once or twice, like they'll lose their rigidity, and it just sketches me out because that's what holds the gear onto the oil pump. So I want to make sure that's not an issue. And then in this little package, if you remember from the previous video, that piece there that ended up breaking inside the motor, I got a new one of those. I didn't feel like digging through my toolbox, so I got that there. And then this is the third bolt, the small bolt that goes on the valve cover. It was some kind of, I don't know what bolt it was. It wasn't the bolt that's supposed to be in there. So we'll chase it and make sure the threads are good, and then we'll have a new bolt for it with all new seals for all of them. Alright, also since I've seen you guys last, I've done some cleaning. I've got both case halves cleaned up, looking pretty good. Way better than it was. So this is prepped here. And then this one as well is all cleaned up, ready to go. I think it came out pretty good. And then did some work on the frame. Got the frame all cleaned up. So that looks pretty decent. And now that this is all cleaned up, we can start taking some of these bearings out of here and replacing those. It's pretty cold, so I threw them outside. They've been outside for a few days, so that'll help out with this process and kind of show you how I take these things in and out. Alright, so we'll start with the left side crankcase main bearing. So we're not going to use these seals, so just take a flat blade screwdriver, just twist it, start working your way around. Try to do this one-handed here. So just stick your screwdriver in there. We're not going to reuse the seal, so twist, pop that thing out. Alright, now what we're going to do is we're going to take a torch and we're going to heat around here, and then from this side I'm going to take the socket and extension, just place it down on the bearing and knock it out. Now we got that bearing out. Came out in some nice pieces, but it's out. We'll clean this up and move on to the next one. Alright, so now that we've got this surface all prepped, cleaned up, ready to go, we'll heat this up again, let it expand. We'll get the cold bearing, which is shrunk because of the cold, and then we'll put that in, and it should go in pretty easy, and then we'll install our seal. Alright. got it in. Alright, take a little engine oil. Put on the seal around the edges. Press this bad Larry in there. There we go. Crank bearing and seal installed. Now I'll go through and change out the rest of the bearings the same way and all the rest of the seals. So we'll see you when that's done. I just wanted to show you while I had this side of the case going too. On the output shaft bearing, there's these keeps with some Phillips screw heads holding them down. Get yourself an impact driver to take those out. I'll show you what it looks like here real quick. Alright, so this is what it looks like if you haven't used one before. Okay, what you do is you put your bit in. That goes down onto your fastener. Tighten this down, and you whack it with a hammer, and then it'll torque it loose for you. It just applies a lot more torque than you can do by hand. And it resists stripping the heads off of them too. Alright, so I got all the bearings swapped out and all the seals swapped out on the case halves. There was only one bearing, I'll show you. Not on this one. That little guy there, that countershaft balancer bearing, gave me a hard time. I don't know what was going on. I heated it up and it didn't really want to come out, and I had to get out from behind here, and like the bearing just exploded when I hit it with a hammer and a punch. So I don't know. Anyway, it's out now. It's replaced. Got a new seal in there. All new seals throughout on this side and on this side. So we'll start the assembly process. One thing I do is I put a little thin layer of grease on this side of the case half and the other side of the case half. Just helps get everything back apart when it's time to do that again. And then I'll also clean out all these dowel holes, make sure that those are nice and cleaned out, and I'll put a little bit of grease on those too. So let's get at it. Alright, so all the bearings have been swapped out, all the seals have been swapped out, the cases are clean. I've got the transmission kind of set in here. I put the transmission in, the dowels with the shift forks and the shift drum. And now I'm going to start putting the bottom end together. We'll get the seal or the gasket on, we'll get the crank in, we'll start buttoning this thing up. I'm going to put it on, I'll probably put it on a time lapse, and we'll let her hammer down. Alright, here we go. Alright, so I got this bolted down. I used the new hardware that I got. Looks really nice, makes it look fresh. Got one of the chain guides in for the cam chain. Cleaned out the oil pickup. I got that bolted down. Then I'm about to put the oil pump back together. You got to put the gears for the pump in between the cases before you put the case on, and then slide your case on. Now I'm at the point where I got the pin in there. I'm going to put this gear on there, and then I have a new circlip. This is the old one, but I got a new circlip, so I don't like to reuse them once they get stretched out. And I'm going to put the new holder that I got on there to hold this pipe in. Alright, here we go. Alright, so we got the oil pump back all assembled. There it is, ready to go. Circlip on there. Next step for this side is installing the flywheel and the stator cover, but I got some work to do to that stuff before I do it. So I just finished cleaning some of the gasket off. I'm going to take this razor blade and just kind of finish scraping off the rest of this gasket material. And then, as you can tell, it's extremely dirty. Lots of metal shavings. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these 3 Phillips heads out. I'll pull the stator out itself, and I'm going to take these 2 8mm bolts out and take this pickup off and just really get in here and clean everything really well and clean all these other parts really well too. So that'll be the next step in that, and then we can start assembling that. Alright, so I got the ignition cover all cleaned up. I got the stator all cleaned up. The pickup is all cleaned up. Looks way better now. Get all the crap out of there. I took off the oil filter cover, changed the oil filter while I was right there with it. Got one of the new bolts in, cleaned out all the oil passages for the oil filter, so that's all good. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little bit of grease on here, just like I did the center cases, grease up the surface area, and then apply my new gasket and button this side down. Alright. Alright, so the left side of the motor is buttoned up. I got all my new hardware on. It's looking a lot better. Thing looks clean now. So now I'm going to flip this over and start working on putting the right side of the motor together. Alright, here we go. Alright, so I got most of the right side put together. Got the kickstarter on, the idler gear, your gear shift shaft, the shift drum shifting mechanism, spring-loaded guy there, and your primary drive sprocket and your countershaft sprocket. All that stuff's done, torqued, clutch is on, torqued, ready to go. I'm working on this clutch cover and right side case cover assembly. I'm going to clean it up. I've already been cleaning it up a little bit. It's not terrible. But I took the water pump apart, took the cover off there. The wrench rabbit kit's got new seals. This is the water side. There's a bearing here, and underneath there's a oil side seal. So we'll replace the bearing and both seals. Then I got the cover off. The kit comes with a new gasket, so we'll clean this up and replace the gasket. I took the shaft out of it and I threw it into the chuck on my drill and polished it. Checked for any kind of burrs or nicks that could compromise any seals. There's nothing, so this thing will be good to go to reuse. Here's my impeller. And the old hardware there. I've got some new hardware over here. It came with that as well. So there's the water pump. So we'll replace the hardware when it comes time for that. But for right now, I'm going to finish cleaning this up. Replace the seal where the kickstart shaft comes through. We'll replace that one too. And we'll get the water pump squared away. Alright, here we go. Alright, got the water pump all assembled. I got the seals and bearings changed. I got the seal over here changed. Got a new bearing pressed in with the oil seal behind that. It's good to go. So now I'm going to put this case cover back on this motor and get that side buttoned up. Alright, so that's the bottom end all together. I got the case cover back on. Replaced all the hardware with the hardware that I got from that eBay store. All nickel plated. It looks really nice. Everything looks good. Everything's torqued down. I think I'm going to call that good for now. I'm going to take a step back and just clean everything up and get reorganized and start doing the top end. And I think that'll be fun with that brand new cylinder head, brand new valves, springs, everything's gonna be so fresh on this thing. This thing's gonna be so mint. I can't wait. So pretty pumped to get this motor back together, and I'll probably do that next weekend. But for now, I'm just gonna wrap it up and clean up and get reorganized and reset. All right, thanks.